Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 648, recorded live on Sunday, August 22nd. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have coming back to the show, Samius Gurobo.
Everybody, welcome.
And Voodoo.
Hey, everyone.
In this week's screenshot, Cerberon delves into Kyber in the 521st screenshot of the week. Thank Cerberon for sending in this week's screenshot. Nice little, I assume it's in the Underdark somewhere. We like to talk about...
I think that's in Thunderhome, the Explorer Zone, right?
Sure is.
Mushroom area?
Possible.
Yep.
I think that's where it's at.
We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyberrators, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we're going to be reviewing Update 50. And we'll have some news and stuff as well. We did get Update 50 Patch 2, so we'll go through those release notes and stuff. We're going to do stuff a little bit out of order, different order today. We're going to actually just jump straight into the review portion. Because I want to give, we've got so much time that we want to make sure that we talk about the Update 50 and not have to worry about getting through the news and that with the guests and stuff. So we're going to jump straight into Update 50, a review of that, which is a pretty significant update. If you take out the content, this is probably one of the most significant updates we've had in a year or two, I think, because of the stat squish, monster rebalance, all of that stuff. And yet, at the same time, almost nothing has changed. That's kind of the goal, right? So it'll be interesting to talk about. So we're gonna talk about Update 50 in depth, what we liked about it, all that fun stuff. And maybe let's start kind of hot take, big picture, and then we'll kind of circle back around at the end. But what do you guys think of Update 50 kind of from a big hot take perspective?
Do you want to go first? I already felt like I Samused already, so if you'd like to Samus now, go ahead.
I'll take it.
Okay.
So, I was really enthusiastic going into Update 50. I wasn't at all worried. I know a lot of people's heads were exploding, but, I've seen this movie before. We've been around. I don't panic about this stuff, and, it just doesn't feel much different to me before and after. I think they did a good job in the stat squish as far as just, all they did is just reorganize the closet as far as I'm concerned. I know there's people want to nitpick about, little details here and there, but overall, I feel pretty good about it. As far as Saltmarsh goes, I'm a tough grader, and I always, look at things very critically, try to be, fair, but also very critical. And I didn't have any major criticisms of the Saltmarsh content, but I would have liked a little more wow factor. Like there weren't a lot of those wow moments during the content. So, and that's kind of what, I'm hearing similar feedback from others as well. It just doesn't really stand out, in the pack. So I'm currently playing. I haven't played Horizon Walker yet, but I have played Radiant Servant. In fact, I'm doing like a tanky Radiant Servant now, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna win me over. I mean, there's some cool things I like about it, but I think there definitely needs to be a few more adjustments to that tree.
Sure. Samus?
Overall, I think that we're not quite done figuring out the stat squish yet. I think that there's going to be a thing something's going to get missed or overlooked or whatever. And it's going to take a while for some stuff to shake out, but I think it's what, the third little update since this has come out or something. So I feel like they're doing a good job staying on top of it, trying to keep things patched. I think it'll level itself out pretty quickly. I did do Horizon Walker, and I did a life as an archer right before Horizon Walker and then kind of transitioned at the end of it. I can see why people would really like it in a boss fight or maybe some really high scale Reapers where the only substantial damage you get are crits anyway. But it feels like just crit fishing all the time. If it's not a crit, it's nothing, basically, is what it kind of feels like to me during regular questing, which was, again, lots of fun in the raid, right? So I feel like it's probably more suited for the big raiders out there than people like me who are leveling up from 1 to 30 every week. There's a lot of interesting fruit in the tree. I think it'll be really good. So I give a lot of credit to universal trees when I kind of look at stuff. As for the actual content of the quests, I have only done them the one time. I've done them on my Road Lease Taken series, which is now updated on YouTube. And I'm just looking at the numbers over here. Several of them are in an hour. And I remember thinking at the time that I was recording them that some of these could have been 2 quests.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so long.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I was particularly slow in the quests. I just feel like that's the nature of the quest. So there's some like tuning issues, I think, with the quests. There was also some spawn differences I noticed pretty substantially. Between sometimes in certain quests, I would get packs of 2 mobs at a time, which felt like way too few. And then I would go into like the next quest and I would have like 12. And I'm like, why so many? I just feel like that pack density, like some of the numbers just need tweaked a little bit more, fine tuning. I think what probably happened is the quests came together at a certain point and then said, okay, these are good for what we need to do. Now let's focus on the important thing, that is the stat squish. And I feel like there's just a little bit of polish that was needed. And I think that's probably what you and Voodoo are picking up on as well. It's just they're like 80% there, I think, for the most part. And that doesn't mean they're not fun and they're not surprises. And there was a couple of things that I was really excited to look forward to. And then the payoff for them was not quite as big as I kind of thought. But again, I think it's just that 80% difference between what we hoped and what we got. That being said, I'm having a lot of fun with the quest. I think for the $10 mark, as everyone kind of predicted from a couple of shows ago, I think the content's a steal. I will tell you that I am absolutely in love with the bigger hireling folder. And it really makes me mad that our other hireling folders are so bad by comparison, and there's no way to like do anything with them.
Or get
But
another one of the big hireling folders.
yeah, I really do. I really just would like another big hireling folder.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of being able to move things around. I like the mechanical system. Like all the things that we talked about the last couple of weeks as like predictions, I think it's just been 100% true. Like I think we were Notre Dame on this one and we just called it all.
Yeah. Yeah, my big kind of the big takeaway where I'm feeling is what changed for me, right? Like it doesn't feel like the stat squish and monster rebalance doesn't feel like it's different to me. And the quests just don't stand out in magical ways, like some of the other expansions we've had. Yeah, so well, let's focus in a little bit. Let's focus in on the content. So there were 10 quests. Samus, you said you ran through them when it was taking you most of them about an hour to get through them.
No.
Or
I'm just looking at it here because there's 8 of them, right? I have
10.
2 of them at an
10.
hour, I think,
Yeah,
and most of them are around the 12-minute mark.
yeah. So that's kind of about where.
Some of them it looks like there might like the average may actually be 20 minutes, so somewhere probably in 18 minutes. But then there's 2 of them here: the final enemy and
Danger at
Danger
Dungwater.
at Dungwater, that are over an hour.
Yeah.
And I realized I wasn't on Samus, right? So I wasn't on my big character with all the bells and whistles, but that's what I wanted to test with in this situation was. But I went in at level, I think I was 6 on Reaper 1.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, those numbers seem really crazy to me. And I remember feeling like the experience was never what I like. The end reward experience wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Now, maybe after a few repetitions and we get these things down, we're going to learn that some of these are like 4-minute quests and the XP is going to be insane, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I did them on at in Legendary on I think we did R6 the first time we cruised through them, and I was mostly getting between 10 and 20 minutes. I put a whole series of videos on right before I left on vacation, left town for a couple days, and the Danger at Dunwater I had it. That video is 37 minutes, and Final Enemy is at just over 30 minutes. And I felt like we were trying to, for our first time run, like, especially with the Danger and Dunwater, it's like, oh, here's this big, massive area. Go find these 2 crests in this big, massive area that you don't actually know where they are going to be. I feel like we ran into those pretty efficiently. But they were still, like, so much longer than the other ones.
Yeah, real quick though, just to kind of justify my numbers for a second, because it sounds really bad by comparison. These were me soloing, using the frog hireling to do the traps or try to do the traps, stuff like that. So your times are definitely going to vary. I think with a party and somebody covering the trapping, I think that your numbers are probably closer to the proper numbers.
I mean, if, on Danger and Dunwater and Final Enemy, if we'd have been like sniffing into the various corners and stuff, no question we could have spent an hour in there. Like,
Yeah,
especially
I mean,
with the
did.
Final Enemy, like we were like kind of, it was towards the end, and we're like, all right, like let's get, all right, where do we need to go? Okay, we're gonna head directly there, and whatever we
Right.
accidentally run into, we'll run into, but we're really just trying to get to the end of the quest. So, Voodoo, what about you for the quests?
Yeah, well, I brought some show and tell because I'd like to
Ooh.
speak to some of those points you brought up. So right here in my hands, I have old school Advanced Dungeons and Dragons U1 Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
Nice.
This module here, for those of you who don't know, that's the first 2 quests, The Haunting of Saltmarsh and Undercover of Darkness. So that one module was broken up into 2 quests. Now, I totally agree that Danger at Dunwater, which is module U2, that was a long one.
Yeah.
We were in there for like an hour and I think 88 minutes or something. Now, we were reading every note and everything, but it was really long. I feel like that could have been broken up into 2, if not 3 quests. And then U3, which is the Final Enemy, this module is like twice as thick as those 2. This module is as thick as both of those put together. And so, we have the Sahuagin Lair. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. I think each one of those could have been its own quest. I think if they had split up Danger at Dunwater and the Final Enemy into 3 quests each, they could have been like, we got 14 quests. And
Yeah,
on
you
paper,
have a full
that would have looked a
expansion,
lot
right?
better than 10.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, they took an entire module or 2 modules and made 1 quest out of them. And that's, on one hand, that's kind of neat, but they were pretty long. For me, the standout quest wasn't those big, long quests. It was the simplest quest on the whole bunch, and that was the one with the giant crocodile.
Swim at your own risk.
Swim at your own risk.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Giant crocodile was like, wow, this is awesome. And when he rolled, I was like, that was so cool. When he's swimming around you, circling you while you're doing the stuff. And that to me was the funnest quest. It was like a real simple nothing of a quest, but that was like the funnest one. And then for me, the other wow moment, like the standout moment, was seeing the nightmare for the first time. Seeing a nightmare come to life in DDO was pretty damn cool. So that was another big memorable moment. I also really liked the marshy area. We have other swamps. We've got red fens. We've got a swampy area in the King's Forest. There are other swampy areas in the game too, but this one did not feel like those other swampy areas. So I really like that we got a swamp that feels unique. I really liked that a memorable moment was when we were going through those tall reeds and it was kind of maze-like and you couldn't see over the cattails. That was pretty neat. There's some neat structures out there too. So I like the look of the wilderness zone. But yeah, I really, from the splash screen of that giant crocodile trying to snap on that bullywug that's hopping away, right to how the quest played out, and seeing, Thousand Teeth roll was really neat for me.
Yeah, those two quests were really long. Although I think once you kind of know where you need to go and you can kind of optimize it, you can get through it pretty quick. There were some things I noticed about the quests. There's a lot of nooks and crannies you can go explore into. So if you want to go find some extra chests, you can do that. Or if you just want to get through the quests a little faster, you can do that too. Which I think does provide for a little bit interesting gameplay and like what are you kind of going for, right? The quests overall just felt kind of meh to me. Like we have this new Bullywug monster, and only one quest even features them, right? So that felt kind of disappointing. I'm not sure I'm going to complain about it, but I was a little surprised only one quest was actually underwater. Since they talked about how they, they redid underwater combat, I was expecting to feature more. Again, I'm fine with it not being heavily featured because it's still underwater combat. But like when I think about like the other expansions, like Ravenloft and Feywild just like really pop. Well, Feywild really pops colorfully on screen, right? And Ravenloft just like they did such a great job with the ambiance and the music landscape to like really make it feel kind of horror. Like those really stand out to me.
So is that the difference in your mind between an expansion and two really good updates crammed together for half the price? I think that's the difference, right? It's that 80% polish I was talking about before. It just need that little extra shine.
Yeah,
I think for most of these quests.
So here's the thing, like for me, it wasn't so much that it. I mean, just from a content perspective, like Sharn doesn't mostly doesn't like pop out to me either. But there's a couple of places where like the music really got the ambiance and kind of got kind of that noir kind of feel. And I didn't really ever find that the music really popped that like did that extra lift for me. But I think maybe even more. I don't feel like the story that Saltmarsh was telling me was anywhere near compelling. And maybe that's a large part of that is because it's only like half of the quests are part of the story, and the other quests are just kind of these standalone quests. They're not. They're kind of tangentially related to what's going on in Saltmarsh. So maybe that might be kind of like the biggest part is the story didn't really grab me, and it like the story itself, as kind of blah as it was, ends in a really anticlimactic manner, right? Like, oh, the priestess is dead and we're done. Like that was it. There might have been some stuff that we didn't get into and didn't do afterwards that are like an optional afterwards or something like that, but it just didn't. It didn't feel like there was a quest that it ended and had like a moment worthy of an end of a story, and I just didn't connect with the story at all either. Like I didn't find it to be something that really popped out and compared in any way, shape, or form to the last expansions we've had.
So I'm about to Samus, and I apologize in advance. So correct me if I'm wrong. Voodoo, what level are the original source materials? They're like 3 to 6, right?
No. Let's see.
They're not very high though.
1 to
No.
3, 1 to 4, 3 to 5.
Okay. What level did you experience the quest, Patrick? At 30,
We did
right?
it at Legendary.
Yeah, so legendary. I believe these quests, and because I experienced them at level 3, so for me, maybe my expectations were a little different. Like it felt like a level 3 story to me, like something that my level 3 character would wander into. The DM would be like, "All right, this is the thing we're doing," and that's the level of the story of impact that we're having, right? Maybe I think weirdly this way, but that's a lot of what I end up having to do as a DM is pace out the stories of where the story isn't by the grandiose scale. It's part of the reason that I've taken over DMing at my local group because we keep doing these world buster things, and I'm tired of it. I just want to save the freaking dog from the tree. I feel like this was a dog from the tree quest,
Mhm.
and I felt like they were very good for that at level 3. Like, I think the problems that I have are more mechanically with the quests and not story wise, because I feel like they
Yeah.
belong there. But I didn't experience them with the expectations of being level 30, because that's the thing that Feywild has. Excuse me, is that it feels like a very grandiose story.
Yeah.
Same thing to a lesser extent with Ravenloft and Sharn and whatnot.
Yeah, but I mean, these have heroic and legendary kind of the same point. And I should say, in fairness, right? Like they're usually an expansion, or at least like something like this. Like I would try to run the quest in story order, but there were so many side quests that, and a couple of those we popped in and did them on because we ran into them on the way somewhere. So that might have kind of broken up the story for me a little bit in ways that were that took me out of it and made it less enjoyable. It's also probably fair to say that I was kind of clock watching a little bit because I was getting on a plane, like I was leaving town. I think the day after I did it, or a day and a half after I did these. So there was some other things that may have kind of just from a personal level kind of gotten in the way of that story enjoyment.
That's fair.
I did like some of the beats. I thought it was kind of interesting that the lizard folk are being pushed out by the Sahagin, right? Like, okay, that was kind of a nice little touch, right? Like there's some stuff there that I kind of liked, but the story just didn't grab me in the way that or wasn't, it didn't feel as focused to me. And again, maybe that's because I was running some of those side quests and stuff. And also just I think like Voodoo said, like it just lacked the wow factor, right? The biggest wow factor for me was the nightmare. But that was kind of soured because the like only part, like we weren't all in the little area that it locks you into. So some people had to zone into that area, and it's throwing all these ongoing damage circles around. So people were spawning into those and getting killed by it before they could move. And then there was, I don't know if it was a thing that a lot of people experience, but like half the circles we couldn't even see.
Again, that feels like mechanical issues
Yeah.
with the quest.
So there was some mechanical issues kind of going on there, that were kind of, and I also, these quests seem to rely, at least a couple of these quests kind of really rely on this idea that you're going to search an area and find something that's not a trap or a door.
That is a weird feeling, but it does feel like a dungeon master trick.
So I'm not sure how I feel about this mechanic, because I liked the idea of the mechanic. Oh, you're using the search in a different way, but I don't feel like they communicated that to me in a way that was effective. There was a chest behind a secret door, was also trapped, and it the first time through, like it took us a while to kind of figure out where it was, and then I found this lever behind some boxes. And then we went through, when I did it a second time, like I went straight to that spot and like, oh, the lever's not here. And then it popped up when someone searched, and it was like, oh, I didn't realize this was a thing. And the second time I did the first one, Haunting of Saltmarsh, there was a key that we were supposed to find via searching. And the first time we ran through it, someone found it really fast. And the second time, we couldn't figure out why we couldn't find this key, because we didn't understand that this was a mechanic that was being used here.
So, I guess I'm just gonna say I feel paid off a little bit for being a person that always takes spot, even though I should know the game well enough to just know where everything is. Right?
So
That's
here,
one of the comments I get more often than anything else.
yes.
So for me, I said I popped out the hireling, I buffed it up, it ran around, its spot went off, and I had it search, and I didn't have any problems. But
So
I'm a person that
here's the
carries
difference
spot.
between those two run throughs of Haunting of Saltmarsh that I had. The first one I was on an alchemist with max search and int up, int base character, right? So I got a spot thing and I searched right away, right? The second time I was running on a bard, so I saw the spot thing, and I didn't search because I assumed it was something that my character wouldn't be able to find, because he has no skills in search and he's not intelligence based. and I didn't really, and it was the key, right? So there was a difference in expectations with the two characters I was running that I think maybe kind of highlights. And I've seen some other people that I saw a couple things in passing that people like haunt. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do in Haunting of Saltmarsh, and I'm assuming it was. I didn't read too much into it, but I'm guessing it was probably the same problem we just had. Was they didn't realize they had to search to find the key.
I don't know. Again, I went through them solo, and I go with the expectations of doing them solo a lot of the time. So I don't know. For me, it felt like a good payoff for being a person that is used to having search or spot. And I was on my bard,
Yeah,
but I'm used to having to cover all the roles.
right.
Right. So maybe that lens also is different, and maybe that's why we're having such a different experience with the zone.
Yeah, I agree with what Samius was saying. How like I don't really need the world shaking events to happen. That sometimes you just want to rescue the cat from the tree, and I feel that is what we got. And I didn't have any grandiose expectations about storyline. I felt like it was kind of spot on. Like it's a classic module, and I'm really happy to see them do a classic module in the form of a mini expansion. I hope we see that more. Flesh them out more than maybe some of the past classic modules. Spend a little bit more time on them. I thought that was really cool. I do. I've got a couple of them in my lap again. So this really really minor stuff, but like I really wanted them to make the house look a little bit more like that. And when I saw the house out in the wilderness zone, I said, they could have done that. And then one of my somebody in my group, when we were looking at the cool lizard folk in the new one there, and somebody was asking like, why did they make them look like that? Well, I'd like to show the viewers why they made them look like that. Right there. That's why. That's what they look like in the old school module. So I don't know how well you can see that in that webcam, but
all the people driving down the highway, listening to the podcast, like this is a podcast, damn it.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like Voodoo just committed to hosting a bunch of pictures somewhere. That's what I heard.
As someone who's played the content in Voodoo, how or like in pen and paper, you have the modules. Do you feel like it captured the spirit of those well?
Honestly, I haven't played through them. I got those
okay.
just because DDO was coming out with this, so I wanted to be able to do a little bit of comparison, but I didn't actually play through those.
I know what I'm hearing now. I'm hearing Voodoo is hosting a DDO streamer event where we're playing through Saltmarsh. Voodoo, we're sponsoring this, so get on it. I'm on board.
D&D night is always looking for DMs, so
that's right. I'm in. Thanks for volunteering, buddy.
Yeah,
I also want to say, I guess we're just sticking to Saltmarsh now, but I'm really glad that they did the classic module as a mini expansion, and I do want to see more of that again.
Well, I think if the numbers work out for this in such a way, and I don't know what those numbers are going to be. I have my feelings, but I think they're going to get a little bit of a shock value. And one of the things that I would like to say to the devs is the content is good. It needs a little bit of refining. You guys someone could definitely take care of that very easily. I think checking numbers, a little polish like that. But I think the sticker shock is the reason that you're going to see weird numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of the quality of the content, not because of the stuff. It's going to be the sticker value. So please don't evaluate these numbers off of number in sales, but more look at it as a reflection of that. Because I have to say, at the $20 value mark, the quests are great. If you're not a person that needs to have a universal tree on all your characters unlocked or something like that, you don't have to go up there. But I think at the $20 value, it's very, very good.
Yeah, which is kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago, right? It was this like questioning if the dollar to content ratio is going to be right. There's no raid in here, and I think like you said, like we're kind of spot on, right? Like
right. Well, the reason I mention it is because there's at least a dozen people that I know of that are basically just like, no, I'm not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, not going to get it forever. And they're like, I don't know, I might get the content right before the hardcore server. If the favor is good. right?
Yeah.
Like that was it. That was their only comment on it. They were not interested in anything else about it other than maybe I'll get it right before the hardcore. And their one common denominator came together was the sticker price, everything that we talked about. So my fear is they're going to look at this and go, well, these mini expansions are not very good. And I don't think that's the case. I think that they did some phenomenal work. I think it's a lot of what we talk about before. If something was sold at $5 instead of $50, I would have bought 100 of them. But because they're at $50, I refuse to buy one because it doesn't make any sense to me. Right? It's the same kind of thing with this. And I feel like I hope that they don't take the wrong lesson because the quests are very fun, I think. And I think that more of these can be done with the classic packs and really put a shine on them and make them really nice things that only DDO will have compared to like other MMOs and other games out there.
Yeah, and I'm having a really hard time personally kind of disassociating my expectations and other content we have from and letting the content stand on its own. Right? Like, it's a mini expansion, so I'm kind of naturally inclined to compare it to Ravenloft and Charn and Feywild, to a lesser extent, Menace in the Dark and Shadowfell Conspiracy. And like, I know this has some love and a lore and a history and is classic pack kind of content. It doesn't feel like to me that it's anywhere near as good or as popular a content as Ravenloft. Like the starting, like, and I'm not talking about like in game. I'm talking about like the stuff that they're using as their foundation, right? Like the classic pack versus Ravenloft, I don't think is as It doesn't seem like it's as popular or as well known or as iconic as Ravenloft is, and I think that's even true to a lesser extent to Feywild and Sharn. And I think when you look at the stuff that we have in the game, I feel like that kind of shows, right? Like Ravenloft is still, I think, the best of the expansions, and I think it's in no small part because it's building off of the best source material out of those four.
That is a good point. You know, if you look at our other classic modules, most of it's much more well known. And even though most of them I didn't even own, I knew of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the Saltmarsh series, I never even heard of it until DDO said, "Hey, we're gonna do Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh classic module," and I'm like, "Sinister what? I never heard of that."
But I feel like for me, that's a bonus because most people aren't going to go back and get the source material or read through it or whatever. So, like, there's a lot of really interesting hooks in those early edition modules that would really catch people by surprise if implemented today. And I feel like having those, again, having a base source material is great, but being able to pick a module that maybe not very many people knew about and really kind of zoom in on it and focus on it and flesh it out in a way that maybe is beyond what was there. And you can do something really, really wonderful with that old source material. And again, make that a jewel of DDO.
Yeah, Zermy in the chat has mentioned that the 5e had the Ghost of Saltmarsh book pretty recently. I actually thought that's what we were going to get. Like, I didn't realize that there were two different Saltmarsh things going on. And if you actually go back and we did our primer with Evil Beaker on Saltmarsh, and I think I actually put in, like, if you look at the beginning of the video, it says the Ghost of Saltmarsh, not the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, because I didn't know those were two different things. But yeah, like the quests themselves are good quests. There's, other than the two that are like really long, which just like really stick out when you're running quests at like 10-minute clips, and then it's like, all right, we're getting into this quest. Oh no, we're actually like, there's more to this quest. We've been here for 20 minutes, and there's more to this, and the queen's gonna send me to do something else now.
I say it feels like there's a natural end that got overlooked. It could have ended, and then he could have had a part 2, and then picked up the other half.
Danger at Dunwater feels like there could have been, like, you're talking about those 3 quests, right? Like, you get to the queen, and then you go do something, and you come back to the queen. And I thought that's where it was going to end. And then it's okay, go talk to these 3 people. And like, oh, we'll talk to these 3 people, and then it's going to end. And then they send us on something else afterwards.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, if
Yeah.
there was natural points in the story that you could have taken a break, it would have been like, all right, everybody, you guys pee break, not fresh drinks. What do we need? Okay, 2 minutes AFK while we like. That's what that needed right there, and we didn't have it.
Yeah. Which I think contributed to that one feeling longer than it actually was, is because it felt like it was going to end, and then it didn't, and then it didn't. Well, yeah, the quests are pretty decent. I felt like I could feel the devs trying to do more lifting than with some of the other packs, and it just didn't coalesce for me in the same way that some of the other packs did.
So what? I wonder how much this played into things. See, the devs did an extraordinary amount of work on loot. We got in update 50 a boatload of loot.
I think in theory it's
And
different devs, right?
I don't know. So how much time was spent on trying to make sure that all that old level 20 loot got updated, which I'm glad it did, but there was
Right.
a lot of work there. And was that effort, sort of pulled from working on the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh part? I don't know. But they gave us a lot of loot.
I don't think it was.
Okay, fair enough.
I think those were kind of 2 separate endeavors. Because I think Linabelle and Steelstar were really kind of more on that side. I think the one dev that I know of, and we know of, that I think Torque might have been pulled more into the stat, away from the building quests and more into the stat squish monster rebalance. That's the one place that I think maybe that would play in more, but I don't know for sure.
There's one more thing I'd like to say about the quest overall, and while I do agree that a lot of people are saying they were kind of meh, but I also want to say that they did not feel rehashy, and that's something I'm usually very critical of when I'm going through dungeons. I'll often have these moments where I'm like, oh, that was pulled from this quest, or this feels like this other quest. Like those, all 10 of them, I did not get a rehashy feel at all. So that was cool, even though they didn't really stand out that much. They also did not feel super rehashy. So that was a good moment good point about it.
And I'll say my group, when we went through stuff, we got a kick out of a hole in the ground and a fireplace for giving us the quest and the end reward.
Yeah. I agree. That was a fun moment.
Especially when we were like, okay, we finished the hole in the ground, and let's see how are they going to do that? It is giving me an end reward. Oh, it's something I picked up and I didn't realize I picked up. Okay, sure. If that's
Hey, I'm in. Any creative way to hand things out, it's fine.
It was pretty funny. So there was some of those stuff, but I really think at the end of the day, it's the negatives for me were the story wasn't as capturing, and I think it really goes back to the source material more than the other ones. So that's why I was really curious, Voodoo, if you had played it and how well it translated. So
no, I haven't played it. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it's okay. All right, let's talk about Horizon Walker. So the new enhancement tree, which is very bow focused. Samus, you've probably played it the most out of the 3 of us. So why don't you give us your thoughts on it?
Wow. So again, I think it might have to do more with the overall bow changes than just Horizon Walker. And it feels like they wanted to make bows very crit fishy, and I think this really just kind of continues to ride that wave really hard. I found some of the attacks to just not be very good, or situationally more mechanically difficult than others. Specifically, scatter shot, I think is what it's called, like the shoot a bunch of guys in front of you kind of attack. I felt like that just was a waste of hitting a button most of the time. I did kind of get into a good sync with it, a rhythm with it towards the end. And then I logged off for the night, and I logged back on the next day, and I could not find it again. So maybe just somebody out there with a little bit more skill could pick that up than I can. And also, it didn't do enough to raise that overall minimum damage for me, which I don't need it to be a ton to get through content, but it needs to feel like I'm taking reasonably sized chunks out of the monster. Except, like I said, when you roll a 20 and then you do 80,000 damage or something,
Right.
and the monster explodes. Like I need to be able to see that bar go down and feel okay about it. And I felt like that was difficult. And I don't know if this is Horizon Walker change or part of the bow change, but I kept feeling like improved precise shot just wasn't working. Like I felt like sometimes it would hit the guy in the back, but it wouldn't hit the guy in the middle. Or sometimes they would hit the guy in the middle and it wouldn't hit the guy at the back. Or like I would notice 4 numbers, but the monsters that died were like on the complete other side of the screen from the monsters I was shooting at. And I just kept feeling like none of this is right. And that
Hmm.
really kind of made things difficult for me to do it. Um, there's so much good low hanging fruit in there. Like you're picking up haste, you're picking up if you need it, which for some people why leveling might be really important. Like a low level dip on the hardcore might be pretty good. You can pick up like a D door. Like you can spend those points without going crazy. Um, and on my build, I put 40 points into the Deepwood Stalker and 41 points for the capstone over there. And that feels awesome when you're splitting your character up into like a weird build. Being able to pick up a capstone that's good for your build. So like overall, I'm very happy about it. I feel like a lot of these mechanical issues are just like
Mm-hmm.
almost there, but not quite there. They just need that last little bit of polish. And I don't know if it was a timetable situation or it just me and my system having these issues, but it doesn't sound like it from the few people that I know that are trying.
I think the thing that kind of sounds to me, Horizon Walker, kind of the big picture, is the design didn't land as well as I think the devs and maybe even the players thought it would. It's numerically, it's a good tree, right?
Oh, it's a very good tree on paper.
Right. Yeah,
It's
like it.
huge.
Well, and even in play, I think it's people are using it. Like it's popular amongst, like, if you're really doing the number crunching, and that's the best tree between that Deepwood and Arcane Archer. Of the three, I think that, but like you were talking about Scattershot, and Scattershot, like the first time I read it, I was like, oh well, that's kind of a neat ability. And the more I read about, like, I didn't ever playtest it beforehand, but the more that I kind of saw what was being talked about, and Steel Star's comments on it, like, oh well, it picks 3 things and it just shoots them, and you don't really get to pick which ones it is, and if that thing like walks behind a wall, and then the arrow's gonna hit the wall and not the monster, right? And the more that I thought about it, like Scattershot just seems like, I don't know how much I would really want to use that if it's going to be like I'm shooting 3 times, but I'm spreading it out amongst 3 monsters, which just from a tactic standpoint isn't necessarily the best idea, anyways, right? Like kill the one thing to take its DPS off the board. Don't spread your DPS out amongst a lot of things, right?
Generally, but not
Yeah,
always. Keep
not
going.
always, but generally, right? But then like it's like, oh, it's sharing the same charges as many shot. So then it becomes I'm either using many shot or scatter shot. And at that point scatter shot's just like, why would I ever take this? I'm just gonna keep many shot. Thank you very much.
So now this is how it's so weird, right? Because when I had it working well, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the groove and I think there's a cone involved, perhaps, and the lead target has to be in the right position on the cone to see it fire. Like, I feel like there's issues with it. But when it works, and you get and again, I basically leveled it right from 1 to 30. I played one day, I streamed out raid day, and that Voodoo sent me a tell, and I'm like, I would, but I already committed to this other group for raids all day. And I was like, we're trying the raids, and it felt really good in the raids, right? But there was a lot of times when I kind of had that moment going, and you like okay, I need to kill those 3 dudes right now, or that guy's gonna die, right? When you're pugging the slots. So I turned around. I'm like, well, I guess this had better work. Hit that scatter shot. You hit that 20, and they all go away. Like when
Nice.
it works, it feels amazing. The problem is it feels like it works 1 out of 10 times, and
Hmm.
I can't do that.
Yeah. And the other thing that I kind of found with Horizon Walker is I didn't. This may not be a fair critique, but I didn't feel like it was distinguishing itself from a play style enough from what I had before as a bow user. If that makes sense.
I feel like if you were comparing other bows to it, that's probably you're comparing apples to apples. It's which flavor of apple do you like? Do you
Yeah.
want a marigold or you want whatever the other one is? Like it's definitely an apple.
And
Um,
it seems
but
like a
it's
really small thing, but like with Vistani Knife Fighter, right? Like my assassin was already using 2 daggers, but just flipping the daggers upside down, like gave it that flair. And I feel like that, and like the illusionist has a couple of unique abilities, and um, the falcon has the falcon that does attacks, right? And I just feel like Horizon Walker lacks that flair piece. That thing
so
that says to me that that guy is using Horizon Walker.
so you're maybe you haven't got to take advantage of the marking principle
Well,
yet, or
no, there's
using
the marking,
marking.
I guess.
The marking is pretty huge, like especially in raids or groups or whatever. We were able to, you used to paint the Orthons blue, right, in Vaughn,
Yeah.
but now with the Horizon Walker guy, that guy gets to set the target and go through it in the order, which is pretty amazing. Um, like it does have things that feel very much unique, I think. I really think it just has more to do with the fact that bows just inherently feel bad unless they're critting. They do. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is that you have to do to change it, because you don't want to increase the rate of fire, because you don't want to make something more powerful than melee, right?
Yeah.
But if it feels so much worse than playing a melee, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And you can make throwers like dagger throwers feel awesome. Like I've leveled up as a throwing dagger build on the last hardcore for giggles, right? And it felt fun the whole way through. Not great, not efficient, but fun. This did not feel fun
Yeah.
until you got to 30, or you were hitting, or anytime that you found a monster that would give you an opportunity to hit your mark button, your power boost button, and your big attack button. And most monsters don't live that long in a quest with people in it. That's the real hookup. Is
And
that
maybe
you have
that's why the
too many
marking
things that
isn't
you have to do.
maybe that's why the marking isn't standing out, right? Because it's until you landed on a boss, it doesn't
Right.
really
It
stick
doesn't
very
do
long.
anything until
Yeah.
again, you have to have something that's got like 100,000 hit
Yeah.
points or whatever for a Reaper group to even think about it.
Having said all
But
that, like I'm glad we have it.
yes, yes, and I will tell you now what it's for. I figured it out, and I can tell you. If you're a person that's playing on like a first or second life character, you're not really sure what you want to do, but you want to become a raider. You want your raider alt, right? Like your DPS generic keep together, but you don't want to like be in too much danger, but you know what I mean? Like you can follow instructions and do a good stuff. It's very good at contributing to DPS in a major way in raids
Mm.
with very little water to cover. I think that's what it's for. And I think that the people out there who are going to tweak it and figure it out exactly are going to push it to an extreme number, and it's going to get a nerf, which seems odd for a thing that I'm literally telling you doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just that I haven't gotten that character back up to 30 and rating. So that marking, because as soon as you said the marking, I was like, oh yeah, Dot has the marking thing, but then it's like, but I'm not.
I think
It's
they
like
could
Mark,
fix
oh it's
that.
dead. Mark, oh it's dead. Mark, oh it's dead.
I think if you were to um, have a button, that button would have a faster recovery after you mark something, so it's more like a free action. Or some of the attacks mark the target if they live after being attacked, it would feel better. But having to try to mark even by myself, I felt like I couldn't mark things and do things very effectively. It was great for like lining up and killing a Reaper out of nowhere, right? When you're by yourself. But for questing, it just nothing lives long enough for those buttons to matter.
Right. All right, I think that covers Horizon Walker. Samus, plug your stuff, man.
Well, I stream Monday through Friday at least over on twitch.tv and youtube.com/Samius Gurobo, SAMIUSGUROBO. Not just Dungeons and Dragons, but we're going to start breaking out the variety a whole lot more here. Both basically Thursdays and Fridays. We're going to be doing a little bit more variety. So Dungeons and Dragons will be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we're probably going to adjust our hours a little bit more as well to ironically compete with Voodoo, because I'm not allowed to sleep more than 4 hours a night. So apparently he just passed it on to me, guys. That's what I'm saying. Right now, Voodoo cursed me with no sleep on the internet. You should come sub me instead. That's what I hear. That's what I'm saying.
Voodoo, you want to plug your stuff?
You can find over 1,000 DDO videos on my YouTube channel. Quest walkthroughs, raid guides, crafting tutorials, and so much more. You can catch me live streaming nearly every day on Twitch channel Vooduspyce. We do a morning show that we call Good Morning Coffee and Chat, where we wake up together, drink coffee, and talk about DDO and play the game a little bit too.
Well, thanks, guys, for joining us today. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. You can also find us on social media and follow the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. That's the best place to find me. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave a comment or email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. All right, so let's talk about game news. So there's we had an update 50 patch 2 this week that was released on Wednesday, August 18th. And I should mention this too really quick. I'm doing the news portion by myself. We talked a lot about update 50 review, and this is going to splice into that show really weirdly. But welcome to the news portion for DDOCast episode 648. This will not be with Samus and Voodoo. It'll just be by myself. So, yeehaw, here we go. Update 50, patch 2 release notes. Like I said, it came out Wednesday, August 18th. They fixed some stuff with Horizon Walker. Also, they increased the chance of regenerating charges from No Step Miss. This is the dexterity, clicky, battle stance, trance. There it is, battle trance. So they're just increasing the chance to recharge it. The recharge was just too slow with the Vorpal rate. Corner of the Quarry now has intended 20-second cooldown. Guidance now uses unique cooldown. Bonuses are working as intended. They also Coup de Grace DC should be working as intended. A lot of these kind of fixes in the enhancement space. Knight of the Chalice's favored weapon, adding favored weapons should be working correctly. That kind of stuff. Let's see. Sacred Defenders no longer providing additional unintended bonuses. Several in the item space, several small item bugs have been fixed. Several typos in the epic and legendary item crafting system have been corrected. The legendary Sword of Shadows cosmetic version now has a yellow border, and its recipe now has a more specific naming and text. After acquiring a feat, enhancement, or destiny ability that grants a new favored weapon, you no longer need to unequip and then re-equip your main hand weapon for it to be properly recognized as a favored weapon. I feel like I've seen things like that before. It's almost just as a general course worth it when you log into the game. Take everything off, put it back on. Fixes a lot of things. Players can now trade 250 threads for a empty soul vessel from the Threads of Fate barter window. That's the crafting bit that you get from Feywild. Kind of makes me wonder if the same will be true of the star fragment bits that you get from Saltmarsh in the future. So maybe be looking out for that. Saltmarsh throwing weapons now fly correctly. I really wish I had seen what this was when it wasn't working. Alas, I did not. Newly made cosmetics of the Shadow Scale outfit will now display their proper appearance. We talked about this recently. It was basically not... there's something wrong with it, and it was wrong such that if you mirrored it, it would stay wrong. So you should now be able to get the correct outfit if you mirror it now. If you did make one and it's the wrong version, you should be able to get in touch with customer service. Mileage may vary. So that might be a thing that you're going to need to deal with there. Let's see. Volcrum fighting leathers can now be properly upgraded. More non-cosmetic docents now properly show their jump shoot appearance later. That could also, you may also have, this is a non-cosmetic docent, so it's just ones that you haven't been mirrored yet, but if you did mirror one and it's not showing correctly, you may, again, have to contact customer service to get a new mirror and then re-mirror it, unfortunately. Lizard Folk Sentient Gem now displays properly in your weapon tooltip. It's kind of nice. Increase the amount of Quartermaster chits that drop from 1 to 1d2 plus 1, which means players will earn them at double to triple the rate they did before. Yay! That's for getting the item, the Saltmarsh weapons. Monsters. Most monsters encountered underwater will now gradually sink down to ground level once they engage in combat. Yay. Nightmares are no longer immune to cold. That will help kill the one nightmare as well. Monsters has had their token fragment drops restored. So this was the epic token fragments when they took out the scrolls that actually also took out the tokens, so they had to put that back in the game. Sands of Nectarine had some issues with the new changes. It now can... Zwabi's Revenge now consistently drops Sands runes when completed. It now drops the correct number of sand runes for each difficulty. An Epic Elite has had its chance at named items raised to be consistent with most other Epic Elite content. They also fixed an issue where some obsolete ingredients continue to drop in certain quests and difficulties. Let's see, Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh stuff, kind of just a bunch of bug fixes. Danger of Dunwater, there was an issue with the final battle where enemies would sometimes spawn outside the boundaries of the fight, making it incompletable. That should be fixed. Let's see. There was a chest in Hijacked Hall that was moved to a drier location. That's something we talked about before, that they needed to move it so that hirelings could get to it. Quest Arc now awards the treasure of the appropriate level when you turn it in. Yay. Haven't checked to see if the Saga's doing it correctly now too, but hopefully it is. The Saltmarsh Training Hall is now open for business. This is a building on the way out of town with horses in front of it. Now contains the Saltmarsh Clash Trainers and Fate Spinner. I guess that's not the same place as the tavern, which is kind of an interesting choice, but sure, okay. And then they significantly increased the number of pack ingredients that drop in chests in Fairline Carnival, Sands of Nectarine, Sentinels of Stormreach, the Chronoscope, Red Fens, Vault of Night, and the Web of Chaos quest. While some optional chests can continue to be able to drop these ingredients, no changes have been made to drop location, and chests remain the primary source of these ingredients. And then Epic Devil Assault now drops Fractured Servers of Time at levels lower than other quests due to there being more eligible chests in this raid. Sure. I'm just kind of trying to do balance stuff there. And then several changes have been made to specific alchemist spells in order to alleviate performance pressure on the game client. And Steelstar wrote that to be more specific about this note, they adjusted certain visual effects to be less particle heavy. It should not impact balance. So hopefully it's not. There was a note about Tempest Spine. Torque wrote that they have verified that Legendary Tempest Spine is ignoring the hit points, AC, and ability scaling changes of the Update 50 monster stat pass due to a rather exotic generator configuration. Some of the saving throw changes did apply here, but that's about it. This will be addressed. It appears to be only an issue with Legendary Tempest Spine. They've been checking into other reports, but haven't found anything like this at this point. They will be re-evaluating the monster aspect of the stat pass soon. They need time to collect live quest data to see how the pass affected average playtime, average deaths, and etc. of quests globally. So it sounds like if you're one of those folks that is not happy with the stat squish and rebalance, that could be being adjusted in the future. Bonus days is Champion Hunter Week through August 25th. You can find limited availability items with mysterious remnants. So if you're something there that you wanted to get that you haven't been able to get, you should be able to do that now. The store sales rise again, 25% off of select reincarnation items, healing items, spell point potions, and quest elixirs. That's through August 26th. And the coupon code is 5 lasting heroism potions with the coupon code Heroic Pot. That'll take us to community news. The 437th Chronicle. Let's see. For spotlights, Saba Jade looked at the differences between free, premium, and VIP. So if maybe one of those folks that's VIP and you're thinking about going back to free or to premium, just give you kind of an idea from that. Strimtom put together the definitive quest ranking list. I don't know if it's definitive because I probably disagree with some of it, but whatever. What food is the snapping line inn known for? Live fish. That's what I'm going with. Fansite news. DDOCast focused on the rollout of Saltmarsh. That was a shout out for our episode last week. DDO Players News got a shout out for that are playing through the Haunting of Saltmarsh. So if you'd like to watch Drac and Pineleaf run through that content, you can. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Bard Life sings the Market Street Bridge song. DDO PL gets electric, and Brock and Friends ask an impossible question. And on Twitch, Deathy TV runs High Skull Reapers. Snowfall 31 has the best new healer build. And Mystic Dragon Little Mama has an Abbott Fest. Again, people saying they have the best builds. Mileage may vary. Opinions abound. On YouTube, Devastation and Gregster quarantines with a Ravager, Muscle Gamer gets started, and Subtle Aggro runs the Hijacked Hall. Also, Cordovan has latest news and heads into a fortress in the weekly Wednesday lunchtime livestream, so don't forget to check out that occasionally. Usually offers some interesting information on that, about the game and stuff. Sometimes it's even correct. Let's see. Dungeon Helper and Trove inventory tracking. This was a post on the forums. So this is some work some folks did to make it easier to keep track of your inventory out of game. I have not really played with it, but they do have it, and we'll link to it in the show notes if you'd like to try to use it. What it is, basically, it's a plugin that with a single button click can scan your character's inventory and shove it into a database for future searching. It can also dump that inventory into a file so you can load the inventory into other custom apps or just create your own stuff. Then you can search by your inventory for items by all sorts of things, parameters. They didn't explicitly say it, but it sounds like it's kind of new. So if you find you have questions or you find something that's not working, you can try to get a hold of them. Mileage may vary because they just kind of did this out of their own free time, but it seems pretty cool, and people seem to be getting some great use out of it. Let's see, D&D night on DDO Stream. Don't forget to check out D&D night on twitch.tv/DDO Stream Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can watch folks playing D&D live. That is where we do that. And you can catch me on there probably in a couple weeks for Rime of the Frost Maiden, and then after that, Oracle 4. For DDOcast news, DDOcast Splat, we're planning on coming back playing on Tuesdays, so different night, but still the same 5:30 Pacific time. So you can watch myself and some friends play DDO weekly as well for that. And don't forget to check out DDOCast.com for all our shows, but also other fun gaming stuff. So occasionally some other games, but also playing DDO and doing some D&D with my guild. We're going through Descent into Avernus. So if you'd like to watch some of that stuff, please feel free to stop by either our website or on YouTube. You can also find it on Twitch as well. All right, so that's going to close out the news portion of the show. So thank you very much for joining us. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website at DDOCast.com or you can support us on Patreon. Thanks to all the folks that make DDOCast happen, including those that are supporting the show, and to Standing Stone Games, Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber for hosting the podcast. If you have a DDO-themed webpage, you Twitch DDO, and you'd like to be featured on our webpage, you can email us DDOcast@gmail.com. We'd be happy to do that for you. You can also hit us up there at DDOcast.com for our show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including various adventures in DDO, and like I said, D&D tabletop, and even some other games. If you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment or email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates at DDOcast on Twitter is the best place. So may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.